Hello everyone and welcome. Make a cup of your favorite drink and get comfortable because this is a wonderful time for news stories from Yellow Cat. Send your own stories in the comments below and maybe they'll be in our new video. Do you have any, well that shut 'em up stories from working in customer service? Not me, but my former boss. I used to work in an old family-owned gas station / garage in a small town in bum F nowhere. Since it was family-owned and 90% of the business came from regulars who had either business accounts or got their family's cars fixed at the shop and had for generations on both sides. As such, the random passersby getting gas on their way to and from cities on either side of the town made up a most negligible amount of business. The gas station side of the business made up maybe 2% of the business, and of that, maybe 0.5 was non-regulars. So my boss couldn't give less of an S about some of the annoying customers who came in. One day, we got a particularly B soccer mom. This was during the summer a few years ago, so the gas was very high compared to the rest of the year. She was convinced that our pumps were purposefully calibrated incorrectly so that less gas was pumped. Her proof was that she always got X amount of dollars in gas and it always went to X percentage full. Well, we had just had our S recalibrated for the year and knew it was all good. She kept complaining to me about it, and being a high schooler, I didn't give a flying F. But I kept up appearances and was polite, kept telling her that we had just had our pumps calibrated. She didn't care and kept complaining. Eventually, she asked for the manager. Well, the office was right behind the counter and my boss was in there listening the whole time. As soon as she asked for him, he simply yelled out, "F off!" And that was about it. I just shrugged at her and she left. My boss was awesome with SL customers. It's strange how sometimes you have to shout out every word as a separate sentence to get a point across. Somehow F off isn't able to convey the futility of effort like F off. And it's funny how people think that "let me talk to my manager" is the secret code to get you fired instantly and get free S. It happens sometimes, but if you have a good relationship with your boss, they usually just let the customer know the same thing you told them. Besides, they don't want their company to lose money. Customer smoking in a supermarket, 2000. Staff member asks customer to stop smoking. Customer refuses to stop. Customer escalates to me as customer service manager at the time. I grabbed a fire extinguisher, large CO2, walked up to the customer and said, "If you don't put the cigarette out now, I will be forced to assume you're on fire and act accordingly." Customer dropped cigarette, stamped it out with her foot, and left the store. You should have put it out immediately with a fire extinguisher. You asked straight away not to smoke, so there was a warning. She would have learned her lesson and never smoked in a store again or at all. A customer wanted to return a computer that was about a year old when I worked in retail. I asked him what was wrong. "It just don't work." I powered it on, gets into Windows, connects to the wireless network, goes online. I open Office, everything seems to be working properly. I show it to him, ask him what's wrong. "It just don't work." I asked him what was actually wrong with the machine, let alone why would you return a computer a year later. "It just don't work." "Are you saying if a car don't start it works fine?" At this point, I had had enough of the guy. "No, sir, I'm saying if there was a car and everyone could start it except one person, I wouldn't blame the car." That's such a great way of calling someone an idiot without saying it. I was eating at Taco Bell once, and I was waiting to ask for some sauce while another customer was yelling at a kitchen employee. She had pulled apart her burrito and was complaining that there wasn't enough of it. I leaned over and said, "Looks like 89 cents worth of food to me." She stormed out. I was at Taco Bell once, and this real-life Karen was standing at the counter complaining that a taco didn't have sour cream on it. She opens it in front of the cashier, and the sour cream is immediately visible. Karen says, "So what the H? Is it under all that lettuce and crap?" To which the cashier replies, "It's called gravity, ma'am. Makes things lie on top of other things." I worked at a Walgreens photo lab right after high school, and it was my first job. There was a really nice lady that used to come by every now and then to have her pictures developed, and whenever they came out, we would chat about them because I thought they were great. One day, while we were talking, another customer arrived. When I asked her how I could help her, she started yelling at me because she didn't like the way her photos came out. She threw them on the counter and was really angry with me and wanted to speak to my manager. I called for my manager and she came over and tried to calm the angry lady down. The angry lady started pointing at me and said that I messed up her photos and blah blah blah, threats, Better Business Bureau, yak yak yak. I don't know what to tell her other than I'm sorry and that I didn't know what was wrong. I told her I processed them like I was supposed to, and that most of the work was done by the machine, to which she immediately replied, "Then what good are you?" Suddenly, the nice lady with the cool pictures pipes up in this authoritative tone. "How dare you? How dare you say that to him and accuse him of ruining your pictures? He already said he was sorry. Do you realize that what you said is going to cost him his job? Shame on you." The angry lady just got quiet, realized how she was acting, and left. I thanked the nice lady, and it made me tear up a bit afterwards because, having someone stand up for you feels good. The good old "what good are you?" Yeah, I've gotten that one a few times in retail. The first few times, I just kind of stammered and apologized, but I've become a fan of, I'm actually very good at calling security when customers harass me. Would you like me to demonstrate? I worked at a drugstore in high school. I had a German couple check out at my register, and they were incredibly rude. They were being in German about the customers behind them in line, using vulgar language and whatnot. Apparently, I wasn't moving fast enough for their liking, and the woman called me an effing B in German, obviously not aware that that was the terribly impractical language that I took in high school. When I finished their order, I stared her in the eye and said thank you in her native tongue, and they both looked shocked and embarrassed. It felt good, man. The only time I ever used my German language education was to tell off some rude customers. Woot woot. That's cool, but I don't think Danke is a good indicator that you understand the language. I'd at least try to spit out a full line. During high school, I worked at a Burger King. I've probably told a couple stories about it before, but I don't think I've done this one yet. There was this one woman who would always come into the drive-thru during the afternoon and ask for a Whopper Jr. with extra onions. And I mean a lot of extra onions. And no matter how many we put in, she always came into the store and beed that there weren't enough. Still, this was in the middle of the afternoon, so we didn't care. However, one day we had 4 buses full of US Army enlistees at the store at the same time. Convoys of chartered buses would go by periodically, and they usually stopped at our store because the bus drivers knew my boss. Now, these people were always the nicest, most respectful people you can possibly imagine, which was a welcome change after dealing with a-holes the whole day. They also always ordered a crap ton of food, all king size, tons of double and triple Whoppers, the whole 9 yards. My boss would always have me give them the senior discount, 15% off, and they enjoyed that immensely because it said that they were getting a senior discount on their receipts. Anyways, nice as they were, they strained our store to the limit because they ordered so much food. So we were almost literally going hammer and tongs to keep up, and then B-face woman comes into drive-thru. My boss told me to just grab 2 handfuls of onions and put them on the sandwich because she didn't need a scene when we were as far behind as we were. I could barely close the effort because of the onions, but I managed it and we gave it to her. Now, remember, the store is completely full of US Army enlistees. They probably have not had fast food for weeks. I think they were going from boot camp to get their first assignments. And the line was out the door. So BFW pushes her way past all of those people, rudely shoving them out of her way, and comes up to the counter screaming that she didn't have enough onions. My boss is peed, so she takes the sandwich, hands it to me, and tells me to do whatever the H I want with it. I dumped the entire effing tub of onions on this, probably about 1.5 liters of onions, and wrapped it up really tight and taped it shut. Note that the wrappers were somewhat elastic. My boss hands it to BFW, and she opens it right on the counter to make sure we have enough, even though it's like 6 times bigger than normal. The thing effing exploded all over. So freaking awesome. All of the troops were trying not to laugh. One of their officers, a quite young first lieutenant, was waiting by the counter for his food, and finally he just gave up and started laughing his A off. The troops took this as a cue, and she had about 250 troops all dying laughing at her. One of the best days of my high school life. She didn't come back for a month, and she never, ever complained about not having enough onions. The coolest kind of petty revenge for this dumb bee. That's the only way to deal with clients like that. To shut this lady up, just give her what she wants so she never wants to complain again. A jar of onions is very powerful. I'd add some extra hot sauce to make sure, as a compliment from the establishment. And did you ever actually see her eat those sandwiches? I suspect she was just using onions for cooking at home. After all, what normal person would need that many onions in a sandwich? Or maybe she's such a bee that she not only yells at people, but also likes to pee them off with her onion breath. I work at Jimmy John's. At JJ's, if you've never been, it's mostly self-service. You get your napkins, and if you need a bag, you get them yourself. Our sandwiches are wrapped in a way that you generally don't need one, and everything is made to go. A lady comes in one day and ordered like 4 or 5 sandwiches. As always, I redirect them to the end of the bar to pick up their sandwiches and grab whatever napkins and bags they want. Now, if someone asks us to bag something for them, we will. People generally don't unless they're really old, in which case we'll do it for them regardless, but nobody minds if they do. This lady never asked once for someone to bag her food. She stood at the bar quiet, bagging all of her sandwiches up, and then left. 15 or 20 minutes go by. Her husband calls the store and asks to speak to a manager, me. I pick up the phone and the conversation goes like this, mostly verbatim. Me, my name is Alzheimer's Rapper, how can I help you? Guy shouting. Yes, it's when is it y'all's policy for people to bag their own food? My wife just came from there and told me she had to bag everything herself. Me. I'm sorry, sir, but it's technically always been our policy. Everything is self-service here at Jimmy John's. We certainly would have, cuts me off. Guy. Well, I'm gonna be sure to tell everyone I know about the kind of service you guys offer over there. Me. Okay, well, thanks, I guess. I mean, it isn't any sort of secret. Hangs up. I love the mystery of the story. Was the lady secretly fuming while bagging her food and went and vented to her husband? Or was she totally normal and just mentioned it to her husband and asked and then he flipped out? We will never know. But it was so bizarre. Why she never said a word to any of the staff? It's weird when an adult woman can't speak up for herself and instead goes crying to their husband about it. That's what children do to their parents. On the other hand, it's weird how telephones make you feel like you're suddenly some tough guy when I doubt he would ever say a word about it in person. I worked in electronics at Target. Over at guest service, I saw a woman with her teenage daughter heatedly speaking to the guy at the counter. After a few moments, he pointed over at me in electronics. The woman's head whirled round, dragon-like, toward me. The rest of her body realigned with her head, and she stomped in my direction. When she reached the counter, I pleasantly asked, "How can I help you?" She slammed a receipt and PS3 controller on the counter. I paid $55 for this, and I can only return it for $40. I asked, "May I see your receipt?" She nodded, and I picked it up. See? $55. Yep, I see that, I said. You bought this last week when the store gave away a $15 gift certificate with the controller. So what? You would shop at Target again, right? I asked. Not if this isn't resolved, she spat. Her daughter next to her was embarrassed. Hypothetically, if there wasn't an issue, I'm guessing you would, and you would use that $15 gift card on your future purchase. If we let you return this controller for $55, then you would have a free $15. That is why the return price is $15 less. I can do the return for you over here if you don't want to go back to guest service. I didn't want to return it, I just wanted to know why the return price was so much less, she said. She picked up her controller and receipt and began to walk off. Her daughter, clearly ashamed of her mother, thanked me and followed her mother out. So this bee wanted to fool you. To return the controller and get $55, even though it cost $40 and $15 as a gift card that she was going to return, so another $15 for nothing. And the check is like a proof. Then let her return the gift card if she wants her $55. If I were you, I'd give her back the full price of what she wants and cancel the gift without her knowledge. Like, when she goes to use the gift card, she would be told that it's not possible. Suck it, B. I used to work at an amusement park, and between department transfers, I started in food, which was by far the worst of the 4 details: games, rides, pavilions. My stand made funnel cakes and corn dogs. The average wait time on a busy day could be upwards of 30 minutes in the sun, which I'll admit sucks. It's not any cooler in the stands, slaving over a 450-degree fryer. Anyhow, this guy comes up, orders 4 corn dogs. I ring him up and ask him if he wants any ketchup or mustard brushed on. He declines. I take his money and hand over 4 corn dogs. His little girl bites into one and then tugs on Daddy's arm and says she wants mustard. I politely inform him that since she's already bitten out of her food, we can't brush it on. However, if he'd had 50 steps to an adjacent building, he could skip the line and just grab some condiment packets. Apparently, this was unacceptable. Up until this point, he was just a normal guy. Suddenly, anger. Do you know who I work for? Do you know who I am? I tell him no. He then half chuckles to himself and points out his pregnant wife sitting at a nearby table and then begrudges the time he spent in line. I again reassure him they will give him some mustard packets if he walks next door. He loses his S. I'm the JD Regional Dirt for Coke in this area. I will buy and sell your A, kid! This self-aggrandizing and demeaning talk towards me lasted a full 60 seconds or so. Then I told him, we only carry Pepsi products. Eat a D. He was flush with embarrassment and rage. Anyone within earshot is laughing at him. To spite me, really his little girl, he didn't go get mustard packets. He forever was known as Mustard Man. I just take great pleasure in seeing the category of "do you know who I am?" people screwed up just in an instant, and they bashfully shut up. And God, is it really that hard to walk a few yards and get free mustard for your own kid? But no, it's better to throw a tantrum to show what an important D you are and S all over yourself to make fun of you. Thanks, man. You made us laugh. Keep going like that. It's just a terrible example for his kid. If you don't get what you want, yell at the top of your lungs and threaten people. Thank you for subscribing, the likes, and the comments. See you in the next video.